Hi, this is Angela Gower-Johnson, and I'd like to talk to you about the low-fat diet myth. So the low-fat diet myth started in the time of Eisenhower. You can find out more information in this amazing film called Fed Up. It can explain all of this in so much more detail, but I just want to give you like the basics of how I understand it. So we have been fed this information that fat creates fat in our body. And I do believe that if we are on a carb diet, it probably is really not that great to have lots of fat because it's too much for our body to assimilate and digest. So if I were talking to you like a normal person and we were sat down having a cup of coffee, I'd say to you that ancestrally, we were not carb eaters, not the processed carbs that we have now, because we came from hunters and gatherers. And the gatherers were not cultivating grains and making breads 2,000, 3,000 years ago, the way that we are now. And if they were doing cultivation, it wasn't to the extent that we're doing now. Their diets were high in fat, they were having protein, and they were having carbs, probably that were from leafy greens, and they were having berries. So we are genetically designed to burn fat. When you're born in ketosis. You're born being a fat burner, and you stay that way until you start eating carbs. So carbs are something that your body finds a little bit more difficult to deal with. And by carbs, I'm talking about heavy carbs like sugar. So if we take sugar, for example, which is what I believe to be what creates fat, is you ingest sugar. So let's say you have a cup of apple juice. So you're having a cup of apple juice and you're like, this is healthy. And, we believe it's healthy because science is telling us that it's healthy. But the thing is that sugar goes into your liver immediately. If you were to eat an apple instead of having a cup of apple juice, or if you were to eat like 3 apples or 4 apples, what happens is you're ingesting that, and that goes into your stomach, and then it goes to be digested because it has fiber. The sugars are wrapped in fiber, and you're not going to have a big insulin peak with it. But if you're having that apple juice, it's going straight into your liver. Insulin is being produced, and insulin then turns that sugar into fat. And that is literally what happens. So you have a rise in insulin because that sugar has gone into your liver. And then the way that your body is trying to get rid of that sugar is by turning it into fat and storing it. And it'll store it right outside of your liver. So there's a phrase that people use for people that are fat on the inside and skinny on the outside, and that's toffee, and it's literally thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So even if you see someone who is, pretty fit or thin looking, and they're eating carbs, and you're like, well, no way does, sugar create fat. You have no idea what their BMI is. So it's really important to, get a proper scale that has BMI and to actually know what that is. So that's just a little bit on the low-fat diet myth. There's so much more about it, but in a nutshell, the high-carb foods that we are offered at every supermarket are actually a myth, because if you look at them, they are high carb and they add sugar to these foods to make the flavor bigger. I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm 48, and I remember the good old days when in choosing steak, I was taught to find a steak that has a lot of marbling in it for cooking, because that fat adds flavor. So fat actually adds flavor. And when you remove the fat, it takes away flavor. And the way to put that flavor back in is sugar, unfortunately. So that's my little take on the low-fat diet myth. Please feel free to ask any questions or leave comments, and have a great day.